Good evening, everybody. If I can please have your attention. First of all, on behalf of Kelly and Robert's two sons and the immediate family of Robert, thank you very much for your presence here, not only now, but obviously however long you knew Robert and Kelly and maybe the family. Robert was around my age, 1 year younger here in Saddlebrook, so a lot of my colleagues and friends have commented about their times with Robert, and very sorry about his passing. Kelly and your boys were very sorry, and thank you for allowing my funeral home, my family funeral home here in Saddlebrook, to be involved or be a part of the services, so thank you very much. But tonight we gather to offer our prayers and, more importantly, your support for the family, because you can just imagine losing someone so young and unexpected and sudden. And this is, we need to somehow come together, and this brings comfort to Kelly and her family and each and every one of you as well. But tonight, I just want to take the time here to offer a prayer. After the prayer, I'm going to introduce the representatives of the United States Army that are here, because as you see, the American flag is draped in front of the chapel here, and there's representatives of the United States Army that are here because Robert served our country, the freedoms we enjoy today and freedoms that will last forever into eternity. And he was honorably discharged from the United States Army in 1986. And then afterwards, when the military presents their honors, I will ask that if anybody would like to offer any words of comfort or a comment or whatever you would like to say or do, please feel free to do that. But at this time, before the military, let us put ourselves in the presence of the dear Lord. Let us pray. Lord Jesus, our Redeemer, you willingly gave yourself up to death so that all people might be saved from death and pass into a new life. Listen to our prayers and look with love on all of your people who mourn and pray for Robert. Lord Jesus, you alone are holy and compassionate. By dying, you open up the gates of life for those who believe in you. Do not let Robert be parted from you, but by your glorious power, give him now light, joy, and peace in heaven, where we all will live forever and ever. Father, into your hands we commend Robert, and we are confident that all who have died in Christ, he too now is raised to life and lives with Christ and all others. And we thank you for the blessings you gave him in this life to show your fatherly care for all of us and the fellowship which is ours with the saints through Jesus Christ. Lord, hear our prayers and welcome Robert to paradise. We commend Robert to you, Lord, and now that he has passed from this life, may he live on in your presence. Eternal rest grant upon him, and may his soul and all the souls of the faithful departed through the mercy of God rest in peace. Amen. At this time, please, I would ask that you please give your attention to the representatives of the United States Army who will come to offer what's known as military honors for his service. And I introduce the representatives to come into the chapel at this time. Thank you. Thank you very much, representatives of the United States Army. A solemn, a simple service, but it means so much, not only for this family, but for our safety of our country, and not only years past, not only today, but for generations to come. So thank you for the service of Robert Peters in the United States Army. So at this time, I'm just going to see if anybody would like to come forward and offer a few words or a comment or anything, and I'll ask that if you can to come to the podium and use the microphone, because there are people from a distance that are paying attention to what we're about to say. So I know there was maybe some family members that would want to come up, but anybody from the audience, please feel free to come forward. And we have somebody right now. So thank you very much.
Hi, everybody. I call myself Kimberly, but Rob always just called me Kim. And whenever I called him, which was once a week, we would talk. I knew Rob since 1986 because we had a two-family house together. I had the upstairs, and Rob had the downstairs. So a lot of people in this room were either in my apartment partying or the hallway or in Rob's, because we just had an open door policy. We talked all the time, and Rob got a puppy from me named Diesel, who was from my favorite German Shepherd, which it was with Rob for six years and unfortunately passed away last year. So Rob and I decided he was so upset I was going to buy him a puppy. So last year, actually, at this time, me and Rob, who haven't spent more than 5 minutes on the phone in 30 years to say hi or to show up for my barbecue or something, we did a road trip for 2.5 days to North Carolina, and we talked for 48 hours. We went for breakfast, we had barbecue, we played with puppies, we came back with puppies, and I just can't believe it was a year ago, and he was absolutely fine. And I talked to him a couple of days before he left us, and he was in the car waiting for one of his ladies, because he started doing lifting, because I said, you can do it whenever you want. You can be an Uber driver. And he called me up and he said, I'm doing it. He goes, I'm getting out of the house. I started my own business. I got cards. He was happy. He was doing great. It was just so sudden for all of us. I just can't imagine. It was hard for me to drive here. I live about an hour and a half away because, like I said, a year ago, almost to the day, him and I were, in North Carolina hanging out, That's, I just want to say, I loved him. He was a pain in the neck. He was sensitive. You would think he was mad at you, but he was hurt. He was not, he acted like he was mean, but he was kind. He was generous. He would give you anything you needed. He was wonderful and horrible at the same breath, because we called him Mr. Wonderful, but we all were just like, why does he have such an attitude? We did. We all called him Mr. Wonderful. That was his name because he just thought he was for so long. So, that's all I have to say. I mean, he was like my brother, just like a bunch of we all grew up together. We all hung out in our 20s. And Kelly, I remember being in my upstairs apartment, and Rob outside his window going, "Hi, Kelly," when she walked by because she was in high school. And I'm going, "What are you doing?" And he goes, that's my brother's sister. I'm like, "I know, but And, I remember one day, all of a sudden I saw Kelly coming out the door about 2 years later. And I was like, "Yep, that was her." And when we were in the car from North Carolina, he said, I knew her since she was a little girl. I could not keep my eyes off her. I loved her. He worried about her constantly. And I was on Facebook one night a couple months ago, and Jesse posts that he had a baby, and I text Rob at 7:30 in the morning, which I'm sure he appreciated because, he didn't answer the phone until maybe 10 if he felt like it. And I said, "Congratulations, Grandpa." And he's like, "What the?" And I'm like, "You're a grandpa." He was so excited to meet his grandkids. He was so proud of his sons. He just wanted you guys to go on a motorcycle ride. He couldn't wait to get a little bike for Angelo. He's like, I could probably get him a 50 or something in a couple of years, and we could all dirt bike ride. But I just want to say, he's going to be missed. He was a bigger than life person, and he was a different person for all of us, but we always knew who he really was. So that's, what I have to say. Anyway.
It's a little cold there for a bit. Thank God for heat. Thanks. I'm not really too good at public speaking, so if I don't make it through this, you'll know why. I got a little gremlin on this shoulder that's saying, "You're going to cry." This one's saying, "No, you're not." So if this one gets an uppercut to this one, we're gone. That's it. I first met Rob in 1986 when the upstairs neighbor happened to move out, and Rob wanted the upstairs apartment, and I got the downstairs one. Hey, Kim. I met him originally through a man named Danny Latuca, who also sadly is gone. I met him in a bar on Main Street in Passaic where I was working at the time. And he said to me one night, "Hey, all you ever do is work. On one of your days off, come and join us. It's my friend's birthday." I said, "I don't know anybody there." He goes, "His name's Rob. Everybody's friendly. You'll love it." So I went there, and I had a great time. And next thing you know, I had moved in downstairs. Rob was like my protector upstairs, watching out for me because I was very young. I thought I was 50, and I was actually less than half that age. But a couple of years later, I was the barmaid at the bar just 2 houses down. And whenever he would come in, he would immediately put money down, saying, "I might drink a little too much tonight. So I don't forget, I want to take care of you first." And it wasn't the money, it was the fact that he would think of others before he would think of anyone else. He would hand me his pool stick, give me a little wink, I would give him a drink and a shot, and off he went to enjoy a few hours of peace and quiet and sometimes a lot of loudness. Just 1 month ago, my husband had surgery. I was telling Kelly this 1 month ago today. And I was all angry at my husband, thinking, oh God, I have to drive him to the hospital, sit there and wait for him to get in and out of surgery. What a pain in the neck. And then when he was rolled in, I started thinking to myself, I hope he makes it. I hope he's okay. I hope nothing happens to him, because all of a sudden, tears and joy and the fights and the love become a reality. when you see something so fragile as life come and go. I'm going to tell you just a couple of memories besides that. And by the way, my husband's fine. He made it through. It was very minor surgery, but then again, when you're not a youngster anymore, everything seems dramatic when it gets up close. When it's far away and not touching you, it seems like it's going to be just fine. But when it comes to knock on your door, it gets a little bit more tender and sensitive, and you look at things just a little bit different. Fast forward to a couple of memories that I have of him for the years that I worked at the Pony. There were three things in particular. The first one I mentioned already is how he would come in. He wasn't in very often, but when he did come in, he always brought a lot of fun. He was a strong, silent type that didn't really say very much, but you knew he was in the room. And he would put his quarters up on the table, and he was pretty sure he was going to have to wait about 3 hours. Because for some reason, people spent a lot of time in the bathroom. And it was annoying. So most people would knock on the door saying, "It's your shot," but not him. He would just look at me and roll his eyes and patiently wait until it was his time up. Sometimes, however, if it took too long for people to get their shot out, he would just say, "Let's clear the table. It's time for me to play because I'm going to have to go home soon." I learned how to really be very good at shooting pool through my husband and Rob. Very good pool players, adored the game. Didn't get to use their sticks as often as they want to because of the long delays. But eventually, from time to time, they actually got an entire game in less than an hour and 37 minutes. It was grueling. But it's still a great sport. And as it happens, I right now do have, underneath a bunch of stuff, a pool table in our home and love playing pool. It's just probably one of his passions, along with really loud music that's high quality, and his bike, which leads me to thinking about living below him was quite noisy. The only reason I was glad that I lived below him is because he was so loud he would drown out Big Nose. It was so loud that the only thing that I looked forward to was the fact that there'd be some really loud Zeppelin music and the vroom of a motorcycle, because then you couldn't hear the vroom, vroom of tires being put on and off cars all day long, starting at 7 a.m. And 7 a.m. was about 2 hours after I went to bed, which was way too early. Or too late, depending on how you looked at it. The only other thing that I do remember besides that is occasionally him putting money down on the table too and saying, "Carrie, I'm a little tired. Can you please just play some good music for me?" And he'd throw a couple of dollar bills down. I'd go over and I'd put money in the jukebox because we can have free music now, but it costs a lot of money back then. And I'd, of course, play all of his favorites, which was mostly Zeppelin and a couple other things, maybe some Bad Company, some Aerosmith, some other tunes that he liked. And occasionally I got to pick out one that I liked for myself, too, which was usually something he didn't like. It's okay. I got away with it. So anyway, after around the mid to late 90s, we kind of got involved in relationships and a little bit of growing up. Not that we didn't grow up while we were there, because I think we all helped each other grow up. But I met my husband there, and Kelly, who had known Rob for so long, we were all starting to get into relationships, steady, get a family and a home. And I know for a while that Kelly and Rob moved down to Port St. Lucie. I believe it was to be by her family, and then moved back up. And Josh and I bought a house out in the Poconos. But we did manage to still get together from time to time. We didn't exactly see each other 7 days a week like we had used to, but just because there were miles separating didn't mean that there wasn't still love and companionship. And doesn't really matter how often you see each other as compared with the quality. although I do believe that we're really just visitors on this earth for a very short time. That whether it's a long, long time every day, or whether it's only once or twice in a decade, that those are the times to remember, because we will not experience them again. And I appreciate every moment that I had with Rob, even though he would smile and wink at me only rarely. I'll remember those few times, and it meant, "You're okay, kid," and it was a special memory. Through sadness and tears and arguments and fights, laundry and washing dishes and kids and diapers and grandchildren and love and hate and everything in between. There's the memory of a life that was cut way too soon. As a visitor on this earth, he was gypped out of a few decades, but the thing that he left behind is every single moment that he spent with all of you. And what he gave to each one of you individually, and to me as well, will never be replaced. It will always be in our hearts, and that's what he left us with. We don't have a choice, but the choice we do have is to make the most of everything that we still have to hold on to in our hearts, because that can never be taken away. I hope that you rest in peace, and that I do believe we'll all be reunited. I do believe that. But I also hope that it's a long time, unfortunately, until you do, because you have sons and grandchildren to take care of, and you're a very strong woman, and I love you. Thank you for letting me speak, everyone. Rest in peace, Rob. I love you.
All right, I just want to start by thanking everybody for coming out today to honor my dad. For those of you who don't know, Jesse Robert, I'm my dad's oldest son, and it means a lot to me and all our family that he came here to honor him. Unexpectedly, losing my father has been the most difficult hardship I've had to experience. Seeing him lay, in the hospital, somebody who I viewed as invincible, was really hard to witness. I, along with my brother and my stepmom and my brother's girlfriend, we stood by his side until his last breath. And while that was really difficult to witness, knowing my dad wasn't alone in those final moments, it brings me some comfort. This whole process has made me realize how unpredictable life can be, and how fortunate I was to have a father who loved me unconditionally. It also reminded me how important it is not to take the people we love for granted, to truly cherish the time we have with them, and to always live in the moment. Now that I'm a father myself, I find myself reflecting a lot on how my dad made me feel throughout my life. And I hope one day my son sees me the same way as I've always seen my dad. Larger than life and like a superhero. My dad never questioned anything I was interested in. Whatever I wanted to do, he always had my back and supported me fully. He always took my side, whether I was right or I was wrong, and no matter who it involved, even Kelly at times. I truly wouldn't be the man I am today without him, and I'm always grateful for everything he's given me. Some of my favorite memories with my dad are the simple ones. He He always made it a priority for us to spend quality time together. When I was younger, he coached my t-ball team. Every weekend he would take me out to go do something fun. Every weekend, whether it was even just playing catch in the yard or going to the batting cages, a fun park, the arcade, carnivals, amusement parks. He was always taking me somewhere. When I was older, we traveled to the city together, and for my birthday, I got my tattoo worked on with him, which I know he probably appreciated because he was covered in tattoos. And that was a really special moment, bonding with him. I even remember a time when I was younger in middle school. He took me to the mall to buy jewelry for a middle school crush I had. And he never judged me on it or anything, even how silly it is now. He just always supported whatever I wanted to do. He was a huge combat sports fan, and we watched a ton of boxing and UFC together religiously. I'll always remember our fishing trips on his boat, the many lakes that we spent time on, and our deep sea fishing trips in Florida. And my dad was also a lifelong biker. Being on his motorcycle, that was his escape from the world. And some of my favorite memories are the long rides he would always take me on all the different Harleys he's had over the years. From, when I was, even before I was born, up until, I was older. He always had me on his bikes. When I was about 5, he used to always brag to all his friends because I could tell what what model Harley was coming down the street just by the sound of it. And I know that always made him really proud. To this day, he still has my little leather jackets that I wore as a kid, framed on his wall. And that's something that's always reminded me how proud he was to be my dad. When I think about it now, a lot of the hobbies and interests I have today started with the time I spent doing them with him. Over the years, my dad continued to grow as a person. Later in life, he began reading the Bible and strengthening his faith. He believed in forgiveness, putting family first and standing up for what's right. And he also began prioritizing his health. He was eating extremely clean. He was working out for hours a day, running 5 miles a day, and he even quit smoking cigarettes over 10 years ago, which is something I never thought he would ever do. When I think of my dad, a handful of words come to mind. Strong, charismatic, charming, outspoken, protective, hardworking, open-minded, family-oriented, and selfless. Those are qualities I strive to embody as a man myself, and they're values I'll carry with me. In December, my dad became a grandfather for the first time, and he was so excited to meet his grandson. I live in South Carolina, so I'm not close by, so we were trying to plan something for this summer to get together. And once he found out about my son, in typical fashion, there was a big check in the mail for whatever the baby needed. And that was something that he always did. He always made sure I had money. He always took care of me, always. My son Angelo is 3 months now. And even though they never got the chance to meet, I know the 11 lessons my dad gave me will live on through him. Losing him at 63 feels far too soon, and it honestly feels unfair. But despite that, I'm incredibly grateful for the memories we shared, the father he was to me, and the love he poured into our family. If there's one thing my dad gave me, it's a lifetime of memories I'll carry with me forever. And I know that every time I'm on a bike or in the gym working out or watching a fight, I'll be thinking about him. Just want to say thank you for everything, Dad. Ride free. I love you, and I'll see you down the road.
So, mine might seem a little short compared to everybody else's here. I really didn't know how long these things should be. So I guess I'll just start from the top. Uh, when I was little, my dad used to tell me that he was secretly Superman. I'd imagine him flying around the backyard because he just refused to show me. um, I remember he'd pick me up from daycare in his work truck, and sometimes he surprised me with something that he picked up, on the road, whether it was a game or a snack or whatever. So that was always a decent surprise. Or sometimes he'd pick me up on his bike from daycare, which made me feel like the coolest kid pulling out of that parking lot. He taught me everything a dad would teach his son. He taught me to ride a bike, one with an engine and one without. We'd go fishing on the lake. One time we had a leak and we had to race back to shore. And the engine had also died, so we were paddling with the extendable orange emergency paddles. Let's see. Oh, we'd take trips to Home Depot where I'd struggle to keep up with his speed walking. I was shorter at the time. It felt like he was flying through Home Depot. I had to do like a light jog just to keep up with him. So after Home Depot, we'd go home and he'd show me what we were working on and whatever tool he was using and how to use it. Half of everything I am comes from him. Tasks you wouldn't think twice about now remind me of him. Even simple expressions like righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, I learned from him. Every bad thing that's happened in these past few years feel unimportant compared to these last couple weeks. Right now I'm just filled with pain that I'm sure will shrink over time, but I don't think it'll ever truly go away. I miss you now, and I'll miss you tomorrow. I love you, Dad. I hope you're at peace. Thank you.
Hello. So I'm Kelly, Rob's wife. So I attempted to write this many times before I finally committed myself to doing it. Probably the reason I kept putting it off is because it's obviously one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do. Writing a eulogy for the love of your life far too soon was not supposed to happen. I honestly don't remember a time that Rob wasn't a part of my life. When my family moved to New Jersey from Oregon back in the 70s, that's when my brother Patrick had met him, and he would come by the house every once in a while. And I was probably about 5, and my mom told me much later in life that when I was a little girl, I would say, "Mommy, I'm going to marry Rob one day." And somehow, even back then, I guess I knew. Our first real date was when I was 18. I had to move to Florida for a short time. But after a few months later, I was 19, and I moved back to New Jersey with one purpose, and that was to be with Rob. Within a month of actually dating, we moved in together. After 3 months, I got his name tattooed on my ankle, which was a stamp. One of the back then the tattoos weren't really, it was a stamp. You looked at a tattoo, I'll take that one. And the Rob, over time, became Bob. because it spread, and he would always look at my ankle and be like, "Who's Bob?" Which always made us laugh. But when you know, you know. That's why you do silly stuff like that. Of course, like all couples, we had ups and downs, but the good times always outweighed the bad. It took him nearly 5 years of us dating to get engaged, but once we did, we were married 9 months later, and we've been together for 33 years. We didn't have a big fancy wedding. We had a little small intimate ceremony in our dining room in our house in Saddlebrook, with a lasagna and sausage and peppers cooking in the oven, right in the next room. And then afterwards, we were going to go to this bar that everybody so far, Kim and Carrie, have mentioned, the Brass Pony. It wasn't called the Brass Pony anymore, but that's where we had our reception, and I brought food. Even though there was catering, I still brought food. But that was us. We were, simple, real, happy. People always ask me, how do you stay married all these years? And honestly, I really only had one rule, is don't be mad at the same time. You could be mad, but you can't be mad at the same time, because then nothing gets resolved. And I don't know, I just thought that was good advice. And so I'm looking around and I see some faces that we haven't seen in a long time, and maybe the Rob that you guys remembered is not the same Rob that he was when he passed. He made big changes. He stopped smoking over 10 years ago. He didn't drink. He was focusing on a healthier lifestyle, working out, maybe a little too much, because he ended up having 3 shoulder surgeries from being shredded and 1 reversal shoulder replacement. But that was him. When he committed to something, he gave it everything. I loved him very deeply. And I know how much he loved his sons. And being their father was one of the greatest joys of his life. He was so proud of the men that you became. He was proud of your strength, your character, and who you are today. And anyone who knows Rob knew that family meant everything to him. And he carried that with pride in his heart every single day. He was also excited to meet you, Giselle, and that beautiful grandbaby, Angelo, and the daughter and the twins. He was just so excited that love was just pure Rob. It's almost impossible to explain everything that Rob meant to me over the past 3 decades. The life we built together, the memories we shared, the love we shared, just gone. He was healthy and just came out of nowhere, and he was gone in an instant. That's going to change our lives forever. But I guess what those strokes couldn't change is the life we built together, the family we created, and the love that we shared. My love for Rob is not something that could ever be measured. It can't be counted in years or moments or memories. It just simply exists. It was endless and unwavering. And 33 years together just wasn't enough. It could have never been enough. But I will carry him with me every day in my heart, in our sons, and in the life we built together. Thank you for loving me all those years. Thank you for being my partner, my family. Save me a seat. I love you. That's it.
So thank you, Kelly, and your sons, those others that came forward to share your time. Great moments together. And thank each and every one of you for being here, because this brings comfort to not only the family and friends, but to all of us who come to honor and to pray for Rob, and he's praying for every one of you too. And we thank you very much for the time that you spend with the family, and continue to keep the family and everybody here in pray for Rob, and in return, Rob will return that. And I know it's hard, Kelly and Sons, and I don't try to make this any easier than it is, because it's not easy at all. It's basically a lifelong journey now to carry this cross. And we're not supposed to understand, because there is no real answer, why God has called Rob at such a young age, 63. Doesn't make sense to us, and don't search for an answer, because there's no answer. God called him home, and he's with us, just in another dimension, and we're only human. We don't kind of understand. We grieve. But anyway, we want to, on behalf of Kelly and her family, thank everyone who may have sent the beautiful flowers and the condolences, the phone calls, the texts, and just keeping in touch at such a difficult time. We thank the representatives of the United States Army, who performed military honors and bestowed the American flag to Kelly and her family. And obviously he gave of himself to save maybe our future from attempts for harm in our country. So may God give him rest. He gets his reward. He's in heaven, and may God bless his soul. And thank you very much. Those who may have walked in that didn't have an opportunity to come forward and pay your respects and greet Kelly and her family, please feel free to do that now. And thank you very much. Chapel will remain open for whatever time you need to just be together. So thank you, and may God bless each and every one of us. Thank you.